Hola, a continuación tendremos una entrevista con Tugce Baser, quien estará a cargo de una ponencia sobre geotecnia ambiental este jueves 28 de octubre en nuestro próximo evento Geoweek, Congreso Internacional de Ingeniería Geotécnica. So, well, thank you for being here with us. Well, we will start the interview with some questions like, why did you decide to specialize in geotechnical engineering, and which was the subject that made you decide to be a geotechnical engineer?
Oh, how did I decide? It was a tough decision. So I am original from Turkey, and in Turkey, when you so you have to take an exam, a national exam, to enter the college. So then everyone wants to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. But I always wanted to be a scientist. So that's why first I went to college to study biology. And then it was a 2-year long education. And after that, I just decided that becoming a biologist is not for me. This is not what I want. So then I had to take another exam to enter the college. Then I just thought of, different engineering. And that time I thought that, okay, engineering may be better for me. So to be honest with you, I did not grow up to become an engineer. It was not my lifelong dream, but I ended up loving it so much. And because of my, I think my connection with soil from childhood, it was a really, really big, impact on when I chose to become a geotechnical engineer in particular. So I did a couple of projects when I was a junior and senior, and everything was related with soil, and it was mainly soil mechanics. And then the first project I worked on was a landslide project. So there was a small town in my hometown, and they had this problem, and there was a feud going on between the villagers and then the city, and they couldn't figure out. And then while I was doing my internship, so there was this project. So, and then the company that I was working for was designated to become the expert, to diffuse the dispute, the feud between and the legal issues between the villagers and then the city. So I worked on that project. I did a bunch of triaxial testing, and I went out in the field and collected samples, and we brought it to the lab, and I did all those tests, and then I did landslide analysis using equilibrium methods. And then we wrote a very long report at the end. I just loved being a part of it, and I just loved doing this for people. And then because at the end of the day, so you're touching people's lives, right? And I really enjoyed it. And then that time I decided that I should become a geotechnical engineer, and I should, because of my lifelong dream to become a scientist. I'm like, okay, so let's combine these two. And then I decided to go for academia.
That's great.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. And we are aware that you study abroad. So I don't know, could you tell us how did it feel and what factors were involved to make that decision?
So I've done many interviews so far. I think this is the question I like the most because I was a faculty in Turkey after college. I became a faculty immediately, and then I spent 4 years at a university in civil engineering, and I was teaching and I was doing my master's, and and one day I packed my stuff, I quit my job, and then I left the country, and I got on a plane, and it was emotional. And, you know, when I got on the plane, I started like thinking, what did I do? So how is it gonna work out? It was a very like emotional, stressful, you know, but I was like stressed out, but it was a good stress, you know. I was feeling good at the same time because it was a new chapter in my life. And but you know, but I was also thinking, what if I fail? You know, what's gonna happen because I quit my job? And all those like thoughts on that plane. And at some point I decided, okay, Tugce, give it a rest. Don't think about those right now because you didn't even start your program yet. So just like focus on your future and focus on the moment in the plane and then start drinking. You're gonna forget everything. So this is what I did. And then, so then I went there. So I went to University of Colorado at Boulder first. But so there was a place that I was familiar with because I went there when I was studying my master's degree. So, so I was familiar with it, and it was difficult at first because I was being educated with a language that was not my mother tongue, and I knew English but I couldn't speak. And I mean, I could understand everything, but I was having problems, you know, when I tried to have conversations with people. So it took me a while, you know, to get used to the language, the system. So it's a long process. You just have to be patient, and you just have to observe, and, you know, so you have to mingle with people. If you just like, if you stay away from people, so even if those people are international, people like you, so there are a lot to share because you're experiencing the same problems, same excitement, same issues. Sometimes you work for the same advisor, and then so you share a lot. And I think hearing from others that sometimes they struggle as well, I think it makes you feel better. And, so you just like have to explore the city that you're living in. You have to explore the campus. For example, I did not know the part like most of the campus until I was moving to San Diego, when I was changing programs. I did not know anything about campus. So just be, assertive, more outgoing, and, just try to learn as much as you can, because it's not just your education, or it's not just about education or finding a job, like going to a different country, studying, especially in the United States. It's the whole thing is an experience, like a life, it's gonna last for the rest of your life.
Yes, of course. Wow, that's really interesting. And I can imagine you first with the fear and then all excited. That's very interesting. And I don't know, in the university, how do you see the women participation? We know that in engineering is not.
Yeah. So you mean the female percentage of academics, in academia, or the student? Are you asking about the student body or the faculty? I can talk about both if you want.
Yes.
Yes. Based on my experience, so we are progressing very well. I mean, we are far beyond when compared to 5 years ago, maybe. And there's a big push about, for women in both in academia and in STEM majors, especially including engineering. And also when I look at our undergraduate student body at University of Illinois, it's increasing, which is very exciting. I believe currently we have 30% of our undergraduates are female students, which is a big percentage, by the way. And it is going to increase, and we are attracting more and more female students. And I believe the percentage for the graduate student body, it must be a little bit, higher than that percentage. So it's somewhere between like 40%, which is a huge number. I see I see a huge progress, a big progress towards increasing the number of females, which is amazing. And I think there's a new generation. So we are educating. So I myself, as a female engineer and a female educator, I am educating new generation of civil engineers, right? And I do believe that when you have people like me, people like you, serving as role models, so we're going to do a better job in the near future.
Yes, definitely. So you mentioned that you work with your students. So the next question we have is about that. What did you enjoy most about working with students? And if you can tell us some fun stories with them.
Okay, let me think. Yeah, so right now I have, I believe, two master student and 2 PhD students and 1 postdoc in my research group. And they're all from different countries. And I believe they're all internationals and international students and researchers. Everyone brings in a different perspective and a different educational, cultural background. And we do share those things, and we do share the values in our research group. So, I have a student from, for example, from South Korea, India, Benin, and Lebanon. It's a very international, and I do have like female students as well. So I think that like mixture, the harmony of that being an international research group, it's very rewarding. I really enjoy working with them and learning from them. So my job as a teacher or an advisor, to teach them, to educate them or guide them in their research. But also I learn from them. I learn their cultures and I learn their values. I think, and that in turn, broadens my perspective, my perspective, not just for research, but for everything, for life. So that's very rewarding. I enjoy that interaction the most. And I do know that, I know that my students, they get together and then, they try different foods, they try different food from their countries or their cultural, food every week or once in a while, which is also nice. So so I know that they're exposed to those, different cultures. So it's good that they interact. So let me think about a funny story so I teach at the junior level. I teach a technical engineering course for juniors and geoenergy systems for seniors and grad students. And at the grad level, it's the foundations. So I teach 3 different courses. I think like, I can't remember, I can't recall a very like funny story. Because I try to make jokes during the lectures, but it never works out. I don't know why, but maybe I'm not that funny, but I find myself funny. But I think I try to, bring in, I try to engage them with like the current issues in the, what's going on in the world. So for example, sometimes when I go to class, I just like put a slide with a picture and I just ask them, oh, do you know what this is? Do you know what's going on? But this just like reminds me of this, like one of the guest lectures for the Deep Foundations course. So we have this amazing researcher and an engineer who graduated from Texas A&M. Mark. So I asked Mark to give a lecture. So he's a very successful engineer. So he has his own international geotechnical engineering consulting company right now. And so he derived an analytical equation during his PhD as an outcome of his PhD. And then he wrote that long equation that I believe it was the derivation in a very like small thin paper, and he rolled it. You know, it's just like when you look at it, it's just like a roll, but when you open it, it's the equation and the derivation. And then he brought it into the class during his lecture, and then he just like opened it, and then students were like holding it. So it was very funny. They loved it so much. So yeah, so we try those like little things to get attention to to our topics that we are very excited about.
Well, that was funny. And we want to talk about also about your publications, maybe some papers. Which publication took the longest to make, and on which one did you find a challenge in the making of it?
Okay, so I think it was the last publication from my PhD work. And it starts with the transient behavior of solar borehole thermal energy storage systems. And so that included both numerical simulations and then the field work, field data that I had to collect for over a year. So I collected those like data after the installation, and then, you know, you have to wait for the field work, right? And you first do the research, and then you you know, you do the installation. It's because it's the field work and full scale study. So it takes a very, very long time. And then after that, you have to validate your numerical model using that data. So it took a while to validate the numerical model using the field data, which was very challenging. And then my advisor and I wrote it, and then we sent it to a journal. And then it took like maybe 8-9 months just to get the first reviews, I guess, if I'm not wrong. And then, but there was like a bunch of corrections, you know, like a bunch of recommendations and a bunch of discussions. And then, so we answered to those, and then we sent them back. And then, so it was rejected at the end. After like maybe a year and a half, it was rejected. So then we took it and we sent it to another journal, which is an ASC publication, which is an ASC journal. So it was very well received. And then it was accepted after a short while. So, but I was like, okay, so where does this gonna end? You know, for how long should we make these corrections? And because you have to, you know, make the reviews happy, editor happy, and make yourself happy at first, right? Because so you write it, I mean, you work on it, you write it, and then you believe that, okay, so this is ready, you know, for people to read it. And then someone not just someone, so people like experts in your field, they are, you know, sometimes, so they don't understand because that's your fault. So you have to make it better. So there's always like, okay, you have to make it better, and you have to try harder. But it's at some point you just like, okay, I just want to give up, you know? And so maybe I should just like forget about this publication, but no, don't give up. Just push it, you know, to push it more, and so you will be rewarded.
Wow, so in total, it took 2 years more to.
Yeah, it was a little bit more than 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it was a long process.
Yeah, very, very long process. But you have to be patient.
Of course. So the last question we have is for you to give some advice for young people who are interested in the field. What will you tell them?
Okay, so I do have a couple of recommendations and suggestions. I think, so, you know, one thing that sometimes we get scared, right? And we get scared when we start a new job. It may be a new project, you know, after they graduate, or it may be for a grad school. So we always have that like fear. We feel the fear and failing fear. That's normal. I just don't, you know, want you guys to think that so we are here just because we're amazing and we can walk on the water. No, that's not the case. So we work really hard, and sometimes we work harder than others. And sometimes, you know, sometimes just life happens, and, you know, sometimes life brings you unexpected things in your way. It's just, I think my biggest recommendation is just when that happens, just calm down and take a deep breath and write everything down. This is what I do usually. Pros and cons, right? When you try to make a decision. So because life is not easy, so life is difficult for all of us. And just try to stay focused. And sometimes it's not easy as well, especially this after this pandemic, you know. Sometimes we lose faith, and sometimes we think that things are not going to work out, and sometimes we just like think they're like, you know, the world is going to end tomorrow, right? So because I felt it too, you know, I sometimes I feel it and I think about it, and it's very depressing. But during these difficult times, you just like try to you know, engage with people, do not disconnect, and feeling the fear, it's completely normal. When you do feel it, just reach out to people and ask for help. And I think, so I believe the anxiety is the main, you know, disease. It's considered as the main disease, especially in the US, that I know. I think it's a worldwide issue. Anxiety, depression. So don't, you know, just try to think optimistic, you know, optimistic about your future, and you know, just like try to stay like healthy, like you. So just work on your mental health and invest in yourself, invest in your mental health, which is very important, because when you don't have it, other things are not going to work out. I think it's the biggest, it's my biggest concern for the next generation. So just, you know, when you do feel that, try to reach out, try to diffuse it, you know, with like small, you know, like, you know, with a small conversation with a colleague, with your friends, or just like go out and drink and try to have fun, and just, you know, don't overthink. Think simple. Life is complicated, but also it's simple at the same time. And if you do not think simple, you cannot start solving your problems. So that's the first thing. And the second recommendation would be just turn to yourselves and then think, because life is short, and think about the things that you're doing at the moment, or about your dreams. Are they really what you want to do? You know, so just like think smart, imagine smart, and I'm not gonna sanction your dreams, but just like try to dream things that, you know, that are likely to happen in the near future, so that it will give you motivation. Civil engineering major is amazing, and maybe we are not like doctors. We are not curing, we don't cure cancer or anything like that, and we do not touch people's lives immediately. You don't see it, but the job that we are doing, our responsibilities are huge. So when we design bridges, buildings, you know, so we have to now design for extreme events, right? Extreme events like earthquakes or tsunamis, or, you know, so we've been all like experiencing those disasters. So when you don't do your job well, and if you don't think smart, and if you don't design smart, so people will die. So just like do not underestimate your role in the community. So then, you know, and then just take the responsibility and think responsibly and, you know, act responsibly. Yeah, again, do not underestimate your responsibility in the community, your place in the community, because it's huge. And now we are designing for, you know, more extremes. Maybe we are gonna start designing for to build something on Moon or Mars. It's gonna happen maybe very soon. So we are already doing it, but civil engineers are not really part of it. And there's also a climate change, the major global crisis right now. And so just like, you know, try to be aware of what's happening in the world, and then try to think how you can incorporate those problems. So I always have that like vision, I always had it. Just like think yourselves, and then, you know, turn to yourself and think, what kind of global crisis do you want to work on? And then after you decide which excites you the most and which problem you want to solve, you can actually shape your future and shape your career around that. So that's very important. And because we're civil engineers and we work for civil, right? We work for people. And I think it's our responsibility to think about those as well. Not just, you know, of course, all of us want to make money and, you know, earn more money to have a better life, of course. But when you do, while you do that, it's also possible that you're solving or you're contributing to solutions to those problems.
Well, thank you very much for all the answers.
Sure.
They were very interesting and helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you
so much for the invitation. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna see you guys in very short while, I guess, right? So it's yeah. So during the lecture. So thank you so much for the invitation, both for the lecture and for the interview. I do hope that this interview, you know, will help students.
Yes, of course. Maybe Andrea, I want to say something.
Yes, thank you so much. And we would like you to invite our public to see you in the lecture very soon.
Thank you so much.